Al comes off as tough, strong, and says stuff like, hey, you want to talk to Eddie? You go through me. And it's all about, how he protects his brother. So they say, oh, we're going to find out what happened at the 1996 MTV Awards, and we're going to go back to 1962. And there's Eddie and Al as little kids, and they come out and they act, and they're playing them like little kids. And the VJ plays their dad, and it's hysterical. She sits down and she's chugging from a vodka bottle, and she's saying stuff like, yeah, I am a musician, I am a jazz musician, and it's hysterical. She's going through the whole thing. She says to Alex, Alex, you must take care of your brother. He is sensitive and you are strong. Now go practice piano. And they're sipping the vodka bottle. And the VJ says to Eddie, he's like, who's playing the dad? The VJ as Eddie's dad, Jan van-halen. You are a musician like your brother. Your brother is good, but you have a special gift. He says, you are very special. He says, fuck the audience. The people can be shit, but the music will never betray you, Eddie. And he teaches him to drink to calm his nerves. And Eddie, takes a swig of the vodka and he's like, it works! It's kind of funny. Then they move on to, 1971, where the boys are playing backyard parties. And they see David Lee Roth has this big PA system. They call David Lee Roth the clinically extroverted rich boy who lives up the hill. A Jewish kid by way of Indiana, which is just really kind of funny. And you see Dave watching the Van Halens and going, fuck, man, I want to be in that band. Then Ed and Al want to borrow the sound system, and Al's like, come back next week, learn Crossroads by Cream, and you can audition. And whatever Alex says, Eddie just stands behind him and goes, yeah. Because he's like the little brother that's always sort of being backed up by Alex, and it's hysterical. So then Dave comes in, and it's so funny. The VJ says, Eddie and Al evoke cream, and Dave thinks cream is something you pour over strawberries. But he's resourceful. So it's really hysterical. And they say that, obviously Dave is more opportunistic, and they see that all the girls gravitate toward Dave, and he knows how to dance and entertain the crowd and get the crowd excited. And you can see they're sort of muddled, and they don't know what to do. And then when Dave auditions, Al says, you sound like shit. He says, your intonation sucks and your timing is off. Your audition is an abysmal failure. And Eddie's like, yeah. It's right behind him, which is really funny. But Dave knows that they need the PA system and they need a singer with pizzazz, because Eddie can't sing and play guitar at the same time. It takes away from his guitar playing. So he's like, you need a real singer. You need someone who knows how to move like me. And the woman playing Dave really nails his whole spirit, that he's sort of upbeat and talks in sound bites and is really sort of jazzed about everything. And it's hysterical. As it goes on, it gets funnier and funnier. And Al realizes it's cheaper if we let him in the band. And Eddie and Dave make a deal, and they shake. They do this momentous moment where they shake hands, and all of a sudden, all these sound effects and visual effects go off like some sort of magic just happened, which obviously invokes the pairing of Dave and Ed is sort of magical. And then it gets into how they're naming the band, and Dave suggests Van Halen, and the woman Megan, who does Dave, goes, it's got mystery, man, like Santana, Van Halen. People won't know what it's like or what it is, but they know it's coming straight at them. And she has that sort of tone and bounce that Dave has in his voice, which is really hysterical. The VJ does the funniest thing. They completely eliminate Michael Anthony from the whole play, and it's hysterical. And the way they do it is, the VJ goes, rounding out the group is a bassist with a golden voice and a mullet that will last 20 years. But we can't talk about him. There's not enough time, which is really hysterical.
Wow, poor Mikey.
Poor Mikey. He even gets...
Even off-Broadway, the guy can't catch a break.
It's hysterical. There's so many moments like that. It gets funnier and funny. So then they show the band. They do the Whiskey. They do the Starwood, the Roxy. And, Dave's whole thing throughout the theme of the show is no side projects, man, except for chicks. And that, my friend, is a science. It's like all that kinds of stuff. And then they show Ed nervous backstage one night. It shows how, this is sort of a tender moment in a way that they show Dave. He's like, it's all packed in there, man. We're going to rule the world. And he's doing kung fu kicks and he's rubbing his hands together like Mr. Miyagi. And, Ed, you could see the fear in Ed, and Dave goes, oh, man, he says to Al, don't tell me he's going to play facing the wall again. And Eddie's afraid they're going to steal his technology. But Dave gives Eddie confidence. He starts saying, so what if they imitate you? He goes, so what if they try to steal your tech? He goes, they're not going to be able to pull the sword out of the stone. Come on, man, you're a rock star. And Eddie's sort of like shy, and he's a rock star. What does that even mean? This haircut makes me look like a woman. And there's a lot of comedic moments. And Dave's like, no, man, it makes you look like Hermes, man, messenger of the gods. And chicks love that. And it's really funny. And he says, we're in this together. We're going to get through this together. And then he goes out and does stretches in the parking lot. And he's like, the magic is real, folks. It's not a mirage. Like he's doing all the David Lee Roth stuff. And Ed goes, I'm going to pull out all the stops tonight. And Dave's like, you're a beautiful man. And then that's the night they get discovered by Warner Brothers because Eddie turns around and he plays out of his mind. And the way they do the music is they play songs that sound like Van Halen, but the notes are off so they don't have to pay the royalties. So, you can tell it's Running with the Devil, but it's a little off. It's sort of like the way they steal songs for commercials. Because in commercials, when they want a song, but they don't use the exact song, but they use the exact instrument and tonal everything, and they come close with the chords, but not close enough to get sued. It's like that. So then, they show Van Halen 1 they go platinum, and then Eddie's the first to make the cover of a guitar magazine, and Dave gets jealous, and Dave's like, hey, cover girl, don't let it go to your head. And he gets you can see there's a little jealousy brewing with Dave, and then there's Eddie has pressure of making Van Halen 2 because he only has a short period of time, and Eddie's like, I didn't ask for that. I'm not a cover girl. I'm just a dumb nut, just like everybody else. And Roth is like, Ed and Al were forced to play large pieces of music as a kid, where I have no musical influence whatsoever. I come from comic books and kung fu movies. It's hysterical, and he's always doing karate around the stage, which is really hysterical. And he's and he starts saying all his typical David Lee Rothisms, like, Van Halen's like a pressure cooker, man. We thrive on steam and heat. Any challenge you give us is like a board, and we're going to kick it in half. Dave gets upset by the reviews he's getting, because Eddie's getting all the attention as the musical genius of the band, and Dave gets upset because Ed is getting all this attention, and he doesn't want to be a rock star, and he walks around and he's like, wah, 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 I'm Eddie Van Halen, I don't want to be a rock star, I want to stay home in my room and play jazz. And Eddie catches him backstage, he's like, are you making fun of me, Dave? And he's like, why are you in the supply closet? He's like all these different little funny moments, and it's really hysterical. They start reading reviews, and Dave feels bad, and he says, I'm not some clown. Sometimes I feels like I'm just trying to keep up with you guys. And obviously there's some sort of insecurity there by Roth that he's trying to keep up with the brothers musically. And Ed's like, hey, man, you get the crowd going. I can't do those splits. And he's like, why you think I do all those stretches in the parking lot? So there's a lot of funny moments like that. And then you got you see girls calling for Eddie, and David Lee Roth's like, life's the peach, man. You got to take a bite. And he's like, Dave, I'm from California. I've eaten a lot of peaches. I'm just looking for the right one. And then Valerie comes into the play. And then you see Valerie walking around backstage. Now, the guy, Omer, who plays Valerie, is he's got to be 6'2". And he's this thin, tall guy. And he does it in such a funny way. He plays it like a little snippy and a little pushy and stuff like that. And she's sort of like leading Ed around a little bit. And she's like, it's crazy backstage. A girl could get lost. And Dave gets jealous that Eddie has a starlet on his arms. That you see the two of them are sort of like, Ed and Valerie are sort of nerdy and they fall in love. They both live at home with their parents, even though they're adults. And they like to kind of stay home and not party. And they like to do their own thing. And Ed says stuff like, you're my favorite character on the show. I like you even better than the janitor. So there's like so many funny lines like that. And Dave doesn't understand why Ed wants to tie himself down, because they're in a band and they're running, they're around and they're touring the world. And his attitude is like, oh, we got to be, like pirates and run around and be marauders and warriors. And Al's like, yeah, I wish I had more than one dick. It's like all these funny lines like that. Then Roth kind of gets upset that Ed's getting all this publicity. He's getting so praised in all the magazines from all the guitar world. He's a genius, musical genius, and he's running around with the starlets. He's in all the other publications about Val, and they're like this power couple in Hollywood. He's like, it's not helping the collective energy, man. Dave's attitude is he's sort of married to the band, and you can see the tension building. He says, 2 cover girls, at least you got that in common. And then they show like over dramatization with Eddie crying, saying, I won Best Guitarist in Guitar World magazine for the 3rd year in a row. I don't know why I'm so lucky. I just wish the attention would go to Dave so he would hold off on the criticism. And Valerie's like, you gotta let the people love you. What are you gonna do? Stop being great so Dave doesn't get mad? And it's really funny. They have like a sex scene, which is not really a sex scene. They're just sort of like joking around how they're in bed and they're throwing like rose petals around like the two of them are in love. And Dave is reading all these like Us Weekly magazines going, that fucking little prick. He's running around with a movie star. And Val's like, movie star? I thought I was just on TV. So there's a lot of that kind of humor. And Dave's like, this is bullshit, man. If it weren't for me, he'd still be in his childhood home drinking Schlitz malt liquor and playing guitar. Diamond Dave ain't got no time for this. I'm going to the jungle for some high-risk adventure. And he goes off, into the jungle while Eddie's left alone. And he's like, I think I want to quit the band. And Val's like, you guys are so great. Why? It's like she plays it. It's not like Val, but it's like just sort of a female role. And it's just so funny. And Val convinces Ed to do some music for her mini-series so they could work together. And then all of a sudden, Roth finds out about that. And it's so funny. Then they have a band meeting between Roth and Al, and he's like, this is ridiculous, we shouldn't be doing, we said no side projects. And then they just go, Michael Anthony, you stay out of this. And there's no Michael Anthony on the stage, which is so funny. They just completely, the running joke is like, Mike is just sort of such an afterthought, which is hysterical. And then Roth's like, I'm in a relationship with this band, man. Now I'm going out of here, and I'm looking at a place where our balls used to be. And he said, I'm just going to go climb a mountain. He just keeps going off and doing his own things. And Al keeps saying no side projects. And the tension completely builds up. And the Fair Warning album is not selling very well. So Dave says the next album, I want to call the shots. And they go into the Diver Down period. And they say that Ed's on the road writing postcards to his wife. And Ed says stuff to Al about Dave, like, he's so cheesy. I just want to punch him. I mean, those assless chaps, Jesus. And he gets, like, so upset, and then he starts talking about wanting to incorporate synthesizer in the band, and he gets so desperate. Ed goes, Gene Simmons been calling. I think I'm going to play with Kiss. All that makeup, no one will even recognize me. And he acts like he doesn't want to be, like a rock star. He wants to sort of be just a musician, and Al, stops him because he says, it would kill Dad if we broke up the band, and you got to stay with me, and family comes first, and then Al tells him to write down what you feel, but stick to the guitar, everything's got to be business, and and the keyboard descends from the ceiling, and it's all striped up with Eddie's colors, and he starts writing Jump, and you see Roth getting upset. He's, this is not Van Halen, man. And Eddie's like, I'm Van Halen. I mean, literally, I'm Van Halen. That's my name. They were talking about how the next album, they'll start writing new songs, but they got to do this cover album, and they do Diver Down, and then Dave starts doing videos.